Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 881. I'm Tom Cagley, your host today. What advice would you give your 25-year-old self? It's the time of year for celebration and introspection. Why? If not now, then when? Our panel today features Daniel Daron, Jeremy Willets, John M. Cagley, myself, and Freddie Clark. It'll be a wonderful and raucous time. Remember, Mastering Work Intake sponsors the SPaMCAST. Starting everything means finishing nothing. Dive into Mastering Work Intake, buy a copy from J. Ross Publishing or from Amazon. Jeremy Willets and I, who wrote this book, look forward to continuing the conversation with you. As I was saying before we went on the air, I had a great conversation with a gentleman that runs a cybersecurity firm. And I know we've had this AI conversation, a half dozen times about the impact of AI on automation or on employment. And while that wasn't the conversation I was having with this gentleman, he, by the way, did agree that work-life balance is especially in a startup and 400-person startup, is something that probably is important, but probably not something that's accentuated. The other thing he did point out is in the cybersecurity world, AI is killing off the entry-level job. Just so, again, interesting things that are happening in the world. Today, gentlemen, I would like you to consider if you had a time machine. All five of us have a time machine, and that we can all go back in time to when we were 25 years old and give ourselves career advice. What career advice would you actually have given your 25-year-old self going back in time?
Well, we're actually 4 on the podcast, so maybe you could count to.
I can't count. I counted myself twice. Damn.
Yeah. So maybe you can start by taking some
remedial arithmetic.
Census classes, maybe.
Okay, well, that's what I would have to tell me. Learn to count and pay attention. Yes. So, how about the 4 of us? What advice would we give?
I think we ought to wait for that phantom 5th person first. That would be better.
Yeah, well, there you go. We'd be waiting for a long time. Kind of thing. So who wants to chime in with some advice that they would give their 25-year-old self?
Well, no matter what it is, when it is, you've got to go with the latest technology and always keep going with the latest technology, because this will always keep you employed. Okay, that's my piece of advice. Whatever trend comes in, one of my friends once told me, if you read 2 books, or 10 books on any topic, compared to the rest of the world, you become an expert. So whatever trend comes up, take 10 books, read them, spruce up your CV and lie like hell, and you're an expert. And of course, always say that you're out of town, because an expert is someone from out of town, like Mark Twain says, and go for it.
You'd also have to, of course, read some things like Mark Twain so that you would know that advice. So a little bit of a liberal arts background there too. Okay, so 10 books. Spruce up your CV. Today's date, I think we'd have AI write it for us and tell us what to say. Maybe even use an AI to actually impersonate us on a job interview. How do y'all react to that advice?
I'm going to mostly agree, but not, because it is my way to not just duck in behind, apparently.
We missed Daniel. You last week.
Sorry, Daniel.
I know where you live.
Oh, God, no. I'm in trouble. I would say, I would distill it out just a little further. I would say continuous learner in general. You adopt that philosophy. How you set about doing it, it doesn't matter. Associated with technology exclusive, I don't think you should do that. I think you should maybe don't be afraid to round out your skills. If you're an engineer, don't be afraid to learn some project management skills. I'm walking around with, well, let me rephrase this. I like product development so much and being an engineer in it wasn't enough. And generating intellectual property and solving these technical challenges wasn't enough. I wanted to know how to get it to the market in a good way, understand what the customer wants. Because if I design the wrong thing or build it in a way that the customer can't use it, I'm screwed, right? The business case is not there. So I have an MBA in marketing to understand the inputs to this whole stream in a better way, and the ultimate outputs, and the project management degree, MS in project management, for the same reason. If I can't tie all these pieces together, get it in on time, at cost, at the price the customer is willing to pay for it, I still fail. So don't be afraid to explore these other things if you're interested in these other connections, even if it's not your primary focus.
I think my advice to my 25-year-old self would be stop being so comfortable being comfortable. I mean, when I was 25, almost 20 years ago, I was working a dead-end job as a legal publishing manuscript editor, not even in the product development industry that I find myself in now, still living with my parents, saving up money for buying a home at some point. Had a girlfriend who's now my wife and mother of my children. So that, positive things, certainly. But if I look back at my career at that point, it was great. It was hugely unfulfilling.
Yeah.
Significantly unfulfilling, but only with, through happenstance, through, some purpose, through learning, like John was saying, have I found what I think is a better life and a better career for me to be in.
Here's the thing I wonder. It's not always, what is the word you use? I wish I wrote it down. I put my notepad in my lap and I have a pen so that I write these things down, and now I don't remember exactly what you said, but it's like, comfortable. Yeah.
Yep.
It's comfortable. You don't start out comfortable in most jobs. I've come to this conclusion just recently. I spent 16 years at a company. It wasn't comfortable when I walked in. It became comfortable over time. It became really comfortable at the end, and very obvious that I was in a dead end, high paying, but I was stuck where I'm at. I already spent 16 years and I had a long way to go to retirement. So I could see me, I got another 15, 20 years more of this, and I'll be in this same boat. And I should have realized that probably 8 years earlier, maybe even a decade. So it starts out uncomfortable. It's like the frog in the water, it starts out uncomfortable. It's the exact opposite. Then it becomes so comfortable and you just realize, I got a family, I got a wife, I got a kid that I get to play with, and I forget all these other things. And one day you wake up and say, man, I put a lot of time into a dead end gig.
Mm-hmm. No kidding.
I think the central thread that I'm hearing from all three of you, and I agree. I think that
all four, because Jeremy just joined.
Well,
and then he left.
And then he left. And he joined again. Yeah.
Yes.
So he's bouncing in and out. So perhaps we will have the fifth, the infamous fifth person at some point. Is a need to learn and grow pretty much every day. Is that sort of that central theme? Because let's face it, I think Daniel's right? You need to stay abreast. You need to stay ahead of the curve. When I first started, I was doing macro assembler. When I got into this part of the business, I was doing macro assembler, and I was looking at people's COBOL kind of stuff, old DOS COBOL, mainly because they were behind the times. But I was looking at that stuff, and I know people who they never grew past that. And I ran into one of them relatively recently, and they're working at Myers, and not in the corporate offices, right? I think they're stocking shelves at an age that one would hope that one didn't have to bend their knees that hard, kind of thing. So
I mean, the key, I think, is it's got to be driven internally. And I think, I mean, when I was 25, and maybe you guys were all the same way, I had just finished, not just finished, but I'd gone through, school. You graduate college, you get a job, you go, okay, I've made it. I'm done with school. I'm tired of going to school. I'm tired of learning. You put your brain on sort of autopilot. You learn how to do your career, and you sort of turn off that learning muscle. At least I did. And it was a very tough shift for me to go from student, where learning is forced upon you, to all of a sudden not having learning forced upon you and having to drive that internally.
Okay,
It was a tough shift for me.
I got the opposite of that. I graduated high school. There were so many things I wanted to be or do. I couldn't sort it out. I envy those folks who know in high school, I want to do that. I'm like, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I wanted to be a professional football player. I wanted to be an engineer, automotive engineer specifically, designing engines and stuff like that. So I'm like, I don't know. I can't decide. So I worked. I am fast food restaurant material right out of high school. 5 years of that. And I'm like, okay, which is about 25. I'm like, man, this is not horrible work, but I'm not going to be able to own a home, have a wife and kid, live by myself if I choose to, ever go on vacation. This is a lot of hard work, and hours as an assistant manager you don't get paid for. It's a salary, and it ain't a great salary, at least back in those days. I don't know what it is now. So by the time I had gotten to that point, I'm like, I probably need to sort this out in a better way. And I stumbled into a friend who was just finishing an engineering degree, and he was talking about it, what he was doing. I'm like, man, I'm good at math. I do remember having these aspirations of designing things. This might be the thing for me to do. And that's how I ended it. So my point is, by the time I was in school, I had already suffered through what poor was looking like, including living in my car from time to time, to the point where, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I really need to focus on whatever this gets me out of this situation, which that was my ticket as I saw it.
So we live in a very dynamic environment, right? Some of us have been in the agile world. Some of us have been in the AI world. Some of us have been in the CMMI world. Some of us have dabbled in the cybersecurity world over the time. Some of us have been in the accounting world. How could a 25-year-old, and we heard John's idea, right? I mean, he did stuff and then decided that it motivated him, and he ran into somebody that gave him a leg up, or at least an idea of where to go. How does someone decide where to start? I know we want to stay on the edge, but if there are 10 things on the edge, do we always do all 10? How do we make those kind of decisions?
What's that saying? The man who grasps much loses everything, or something like that. I forget what saying that is.
I benefited a lot in my career of learning on the company dime and learning on company time. I had the benefit of not having been a consultant ever. I've been an internal employee for the entirety of my career. And so one of the significant pros that I experienced with that was an ability to spend company money on boning up my skill set in a new area. And, it's by no accident that I made the shift from technical writer to Scrum Master as seamlessly as I did. It's because I had the ability to learn on the job a little bit, but then also take time to read, to pursue certification, to ingest learning, to go to conferences. And it didn't seem like extra. It was part of my 40-hour-a-week commitment to that place at the time. And that made it a whole lot easier for me to justify a career shift.
But how did you know to focus on that, for example? To bring it back to Tom's question.
Yeah,
that's the problem. That was my problem out of high school. All these things I want to do, and as far as I know, I could maybe do them. Oh yeah, let's not forget, professional bass player. I wanted to be Steve Harris of Iron Maiden. I even painted my bass, my classic Fender bass, that blue color of his, and then realized I had just disrupted a classic instrument, and I had a friend of mine turn it back to like it's supposed to be.
I think my journey was as innocuous as being the first tech writer on a Scrum team at this company, seeing the Scrum Master role, having to do a little bit of it because we didn't have enough people to do the role to go around, getting positive feedback that I did a good job at it, then interviewing for a lead tech writer position and not getting it, and going back to my desk and being really frustrated and wondering what to do. And that and much, John, it sounds like your career was a forcing function, like to get you to where you are.
Yeah.
That failure forced me to go have a conversation with Tom and my former boss to say, hey, is there an opportunity for me to do this? And that set the wheels in motion that takes me to where I am right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. You call it forcing function. When I realized my career was not a career at that last company, this is the reason why there's so many books. At least I started on this path, Tom. I wrote a book on the exact domain that I wanted to be. I wanted to be a chief engineer at this company, and I was like 1.5 steps away from it. So it wasn't really a large aspirational change. It was just a relatively small increment. And when it became obvious that I didn't have what they wanted in that spot for whatever reason, perhaps I wasn't born Swedish, for whatever reason. Yeah, that's the rumor anyway. I don't know. I whatever it is. Anyway, so when I didn't get it, I was writing books to help people to start with, and then stuff would stumble in my lap, and I would just like the editor at Taylor and Francis would say something like, sure wish I had somebody to write on this topic. I'm like, well, we're doing stuff on this topic. Let's go ahead and throw that book in the mix. And then I'd put it in my signature line at the bottom of my email address for the company. It was my way of poking my finger in their chest. You guys don't think I'm competent enough to do this, but look at this. Look at this. Scrum author, testing product, embedded products and systems author, project management, complex automotive systems author, configuration management author. I wasn't a mad thing. It was a you guys are wrong, and I'm going to show you. It was a forcing function. Of course, I ended up leaving the company, but I think all those things have put me in a good position sometimes.
Daniel, you have a different path. I mean, you're a different person. We're all different, right?
He's Canadian,
but
yes.
you
non-practicing Canadian. I'm French.
There you go.
I don't. Okay,
and you're a certified accountant, and you're heavily into the world of lean. How did you make those choices? I mean, that's a really interesting pedigree. How did you decide to be that when you grew up?
Well,
I know you haven't grown up yet, but let's assume you have.
Yeah. No, but interestingly, I met all sorts of people in my life. I met some very advanced chess players, Kevin Spraggett. I took interest in chess. Then I met a musician, very good musician. I grew heavily interested in classical music. I think I have 30 recordings of Beethoven's last 3 sonatas, piano sonatas, 109, 110, 111. And then my life took me to, and in some ways, those people were marginals, because they were not mainstream. And that's what attracted me to all sorts of things and in my life that I would say described me as a marginal thinker. And I will pick up dead leaves on my way home.
Interesting metaphor. And why those dead leaves?
Because I am not a follower. And this is actually a problem that I had with my daughter. My daughter is the ultimate follower. She sees a friend and she's glued to him or her. And I've never been like that. I do not follow. And this is something that is as much a strength as it is a pain and a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to think on my own. And like, for example, that when Kanban started, I was among the first to jump on the train. And the same thing with the throughput accounting and the theory of constraint applied to knowledge work. I'm marginal.
I think we would define the word marginal. What you are is a leading edge thinker rather than marginal. But
well, the future will tell.
There you go. And so do the rest of you view yourselves? I mean, each one of you have carved out different careers. Would you call yourselves followers or leaders?
I would call myself fortunate.
Ooh, okay.
Fortunate to have probably stumbled into a lot of opportunities. I mean, it's the old you make your own luck kind of thing. I think if I look back on my career in my life, the story I tell in a lot of cases is that I'm just very fortunate to have found the things and done the things that I've been able to do, but I'm also optimistic that I'll be able to do more. I think probably to answer your question more directly, Tom, at the start, I was a follower. I think I've since learned that to differentiate myself from the rest of folks, I need to become a leader in multiple facets.
I think I wouldn't say either one of those. It's context and situation dependent. I had a person on my team, and I was a manager, 16, 17 group person group, and the guy came up to me and he said, "You've mastered a good many things. You know when it's time to push hard on it, the item that you want to push hard. You're going to stay with this thought, like a leader would, right? This is what we're doing, and this is why we're doing it. This is the rationale behind it. But when somebody else brought something up that was proved that this might not be the right direction, I'm all right going, okay, tell me about this. Let's figure this out. And maybe you're the person that should take this, and I'll give you what I can in terms of, whatever, what is the word? And that's not authority, but something like that if you need it. Because if you're somebody in my group, you should maybe give the impression to all the other team members that you've usurped the group. But that's not what's happened here. You're the one who knows what we should be doing here, and I'm not the perfect person for this job. It's time for you to take it, or to at least provide the impetus for us to be able to do it. I don't look at it in terms of leader or whatever. I'm going to do what I'm going to do, what I think is right. That's a period. And if somebody else's suggestion seems like the right thing to do, I'll duck in behind them. And if they want me to contribute heavily, I will gladly do so. Yeah. So I don't know that I can classify myself in those. I prefer one of those roles over another. I prefer knowing what's going on and making some of those decisions for sure. But I also know that I don't know everything.
Well,
and sometimes I'm not going to be the best person for the job.
I agree with all that. But where I was trying to get to is what Daniel described was someone who really went out and said, these are interesting things. They're not mainstream. I'm going to pursue these kinds of ideas. Where do the rest of you fall with those kind of ideas?
That's a good question.
It's obviously you may not be able to answer, right? And so feel free to defer, and perhaps we'll talk about this at later. But you were about to say something, Jeremy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll tie it into what Daniel said about books and expertise. I think if you arm yourself with enough knowledge in a given area, it's much easier to step out on a limb and be on the edge in a specific area than if you're completely clueless. I think, if I think about my days with Scrum, my days with the Manifesto, even SAFe, like at the start, when you're learning things, you're much more apt to be a follower versus after some level of time spent learning, you're able to do what Daniel described, which is having a certain level of expertise. I mean, I'll throw in one music reference. Y'all remember the band Talk Talk?
Yes,
I do. It's my life. Like they're huge. It's a song that's still played today, right? Hugely popular 80s synth pop song. Nobody realizes that the last two records they made, which were commercial failures, were incredibly influential in the world of post-rock, the genre of post-rock. They are fantastic introspective records that are magnificent works of art, but most people just know them for that initial thing. Where if I think about the leader-follower metaphor, back in their synth pop days, they were definitely following trends. But once they made enough money, once they had enough musical expertise, they made these two fantastic records that I'm confident will be their enduring legacy.
If we're saying trying to connect leadership to the ability or the innate just going where others have not gone, then I think if you want to call that curiosity, then my career is full of that.
I think it's thought leadership, and perhaps that would have been a better phrasing on my part.
Okay, if you want to say thought leadership, I think the first thing, a prerequisite for that, has to be some measure of curiosity in things, and maybe even a collection of disparate things. So I think in order to provide any kind of reasonable thought leadership, you should probably have a pretty wide view of, and maybe a certain amount of depth as well, of the things that seem to be interconnected, or who ultimately are interconnected, but maybe not so obvious that they could be.
I think that's a good point to make. Arguably, right, if you really think about it, to Daniel's earlier point about picking up 10 books on something, I think you'd have to have some degree of curiosity, or just some other mental illness, obsessive compulsive behavior that you just had to read 10 books on everything. But I suspect that it's probably more on the curiosity front kind of thing.
I prefer to spin it like that.
Mental illness.
Then, but my family would probably, again, maybe offer a counterpoint.
Arguably, over the years, having been doing this podcast for so long, I think I've been accused of a lot of different things, especially on Sunday morning when I'm yelling and screaming at software, trying to get this thing to post sometimes. Yeah, it's like, perhaps they'll come and get you, Tom, kind of thing. But regardless.
Yeah, I don't have a 10-book target, but you would not believe my bookshelves. I have to rotate stuff out because it's just too much. I wouldn't even want to guess how much I read in a year. I don't read quite as much as I used to, but I'd be brushing my teeth, and I can't just sit there idle and brush my teeth for 2 minutes or whatever it is. I'd have a book open on the sink, reading a book.
Okay, I one more question before we wrap for the week. I think this has been helpful. I think it should be useful to the listeners as they consider, whether it's their 25-year-old self thinking about starting something, or their 45-year-old self, or their 65-year-old self, picking their next target as to what to pursue. John, you mentioned reading. What do you classify as reading these days? Is it actual physical paper reading? Is it electronic reading? Do you listen to stuff? Are all of those the same thing to you?
I'm mostly a traditional book reading person, magazine reading person. When I say reading, I'm talking books.
You're talking paper.
I'm talking paper. But it's interesting to read the listening stuff. I don't know. I probably should give that a crack. I've only done it a couple of times, and usually for mind candy stuff, not really for what I would consider maybe associated with my curiosities. It's more of something else just to keep but a little distraction to go off someplace else,
So Daniel,
I don't know. What do you think of those kind of books? Do they work?
I'm listening right now to the Letters of Seneca, which is Stoic philosophy. And my only problem is listening is it's sometimes hard to take notes. Not always, but sometimes hard to take notes. And I do take notes, which might have contributed a little bit to the altercation today with the car. But regardless, Daniel, paper, electronic, listening, where do you fall on that continuum?
I'm definitely more hard copy paper. And if I pick up a book and there's more than 5 characters into it, I just drop it. I can't deal with names.
Okay.
So, no, I'm not the novel kind of guy. I basically read business-related books only.
Okay. That's fair. Mr. Willets.
It's listening. I find that I don't have time to sit and read as much as I want to. I mean, I've recently bought a few books and actually done the thing where they didn't get open, so I just downloaded a copy of it from the library and started to listen and plug away that way.
Whatever it takes, man.
Yeah, I've I guess I do all three. If I'm reading for content, I think, and for research kind of stuff, I think listening is harder for me because it is harder to take notes. If I'm just reading for background, again, I'm listening to the Stoic philosophy stuff, and I've already decided I'm buying a copy of the book anyway to go with it now. But when I'm reading for reference, I'm doing it pretty much all electronic now so that I can, cut and paste and things like that. I've even gone as far as on the paper stuff, actually taking pictures with my iPhone and translating that into text so I can then go put it in a document so that I can have the notes and I don't have to actually highlight the book. Because, I grew up in a place where if you dog-eared books and you highlighted them, unless they were for school, you were an evildoer and that you were desecrating books.
Yeah, blasphemer.
And if you were talking to your 25-year-old, again, that 25-year-old will only have books on which as a medium for which to learn.
You're absolutely right. You go back that far, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And so now today, your excuse of my dog ate my book is no longer valid.
You have to say my dog ate my computer or ate my router.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
My dog ate the internet.
My dog ate the router. And also my phone because gateway.
There you go. Yeah.
Actually, all the household phones because I don't have a gateway at all. Yeah. I don't know. Back in the day, I had a pretty good memory. I would listen in class. I didn't have to open the book too much. Except for the math classes. Now you got to kind of practice that.
I would love to be able to test my 25-year-old because I used to think I had a good memory, and I'll be honest with you, I did take copious notes anyway, but I'd never read them. I highly suspect that none of our memories were ever as good as we thought they were.
Yeah, maybe. But the missus asks me, how can you remember these obscure things and then not remember our anniversary? And I have I got nothing. I'm like, oh man, I'm in trouble. I don't know how to answer this question.
Well, both I and my wife forgot our anniversary last year. So I'm pretty cool with that.
That doesn't happen in my house. I'm the only one. But I'll remember obscure facts from the 80s or 90s or even the 70s. And
there you go. Well, gentlemen, again, this has been a magnificent Friday afternoon. I look forward to at least a few more of these, and at some point,
bourbon, right?
At the last one, maybe we'll all do NA beers or something.
I'll see if I can have my bass plugged up and maybe run a couple of runs through as a outro.
So long as we don't incur the wrath of the music industry. I'd rather not get sued.
I won't be stealing nobody's stuff. I'll make up some garbage.
Excellent. All righty. Well, have a fabulous afternoon. And again, I think, there are some great tidbits of advice in here that I wish I'd listened to this podcast 25 years ago. Then I'd say, oh, is that what I became?
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom, for having us again.
Yes.
It is always a pleasure. Rock and roll, guys.
Bye, y'all. You have a great weekend.
And some of you have a nice long one.
Yeah.
It's a holiday.
It's a holiday.
Here in the States. Toodles.
The weather isn't horrible, so it should be nice.
All right.
One can hope.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Good talking to you, everybody. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
We look forward to having you with us. In the next Software Process and Measurement Cast, our year-end panel.